Alright, so I'm not happy with some of the shit that went on in the AL West. Also, now the Texas Rangers are no longer in the wild card spot. It now goes to the Toronto Blue Jays. The Rangers really had a collapse in August that will likely cost them the division title and might cost them a playoff spot. Even the Seattle Mariners haven't been doing as well as they could be recently, which might give the Astros a division title, but their resurgence in August is very likely to at least give them a playoff spot. That being said, it's very tight between Astros, Mariners, Rangers, Blue Jays. One of the teams has to win the AL West, and then there's 3 teams competing for 2 wild card spots because the Rays are almost only getting the 4th seed. Having said that, the Cubs just swept the San Francisco Giants. We swept them. We win a tiebreak over them. They're down at 500. The Yankees are also at 500 somehow. We swept their asses. We are now at a season high 12 games above 500 with 76 wins and 64 losses. I think that actually will get us a good decimal. 76 over 140 is 19 over 35 is 3.8 over 7, which is like 0.556. We might honestly be better than the Phillies now. I don't think we're going to hold that, and the Phillies do own the tiebreak over the Cubs, but the Cubs are in a very good position. Pretty much, we made it where the San Francisco Giants are unlikely to be much of a concern to the Cubs. So, we didn't deal with the Reds the way I wanted to, but I'm very pleased with the series against the San Francisco Giants. And Wicks is a damn good pitcher. Having said that, more needs to be done. We're only 1.5 games behind the Brewers, and we need to keep it close against the Milwaukee Brewers. If we can't overtake them outright, it's fine because we're having a series at the end, but we need to keep it close. As long as we're within 3 games of Milwaukee, we will control our own destiny for the NL Central title. We must not lose that control because with our series at the end, as long as we're within 3 games of them, we will control our destiny over with the Brewers. They'll also control their own destiny, and it'll sure as hell be, easier for the Brewers to get it. But even at 2 games behind, with the way the series is, if the Cubs can win 2 games, we will get the title. At 3 games behind, we need to sweep their ass. But at 2 games behind, all we would need to do is win 2 games. 1 game behind would, I think also, would 2? Okay, wait, I'm confused. Okay, 3 games behind. Yeah, they should still even out. But 1 game behind, I think, is still also going to require 2 wins. I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to work. I might have messed something up. Point is, we need to keep it close against the Brewers. 1.5 games is definitely going to be close enough to where... Actually, I think at 2 games behind, we would need a sweep of the series. Just, based on how many we can overtake. So I don't know if 3 games behind, if we even be in contention, but it's fine. Anyway. We have not played the Diamondbacks all season. There's a few other series that we have that, of course, just get the wins wherever we can. They're mostly against weaker teams. But what I'm really stressed about is the series against the Diamondbacks. Because we have 2 of them. We have 7 games. We did not play the Diamondbacks yet this season. And they're serious contenders. This is a series that we have to win. Because if we lose 5 out of those 7 games, we are not making the playoffs if we lose 5 out of those 7 games. The Diamondbacks are going to take our spot. The Reds are going to take our spot. I don't think the Giants are going to be able to resurge to take our spot, but so many teams will just be able to take our spot. We cannot have a September collapse. We worked too hard in July and August. A September collapse we can't afford. Diamondbacks, again, a very stressful series, but the results of the first one will definitely could make the second one less stressful if, say, we win games, and at which point we kind of know how it's going to go. I mean, as long as we win the series against the Diamondbacks, I'm not too concerned anymore. So there definitely is some comfort in that hindsight. And if the Cubs make the playoffs, it'll be quite crazy considering how poorly their season started off. I mean, there was a point in the season where they were 22-30. Phillies at one point were 22-29 when they made the World Series, and when the Nats won at that one point, they were 19-30. So these kind of comebacks aren't that rare. But it's still unlikely for a 22-30 team to make the playoffs. And just think about it, and then they were down at 45-51. Just think about it, how the Cubs, at that point in time, how crappy they were. And when they were 45-51, in that time we won 31 games, and we only lost 13. I am pretty pleased about that. How I went from 6 games underwater to 12 games above water. And how we put ourselves in our playoff position. We did not do good in May, but we were able to make it up in June. Now, one interesting fact is that the Cubs are one of only 2 teams in the NL Central to have never held a division lead throughout the season. It's the other one is the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are well out of playoff contention. Pirates start off with a strong lead when they controlled the entire National League thanks to their 20-9 record in April. But then it subsequently collapsed, going 1-11 or something like that. They were able to somewhat build themselves up, but then they fell into another 10-game losing streak. In the process, they went from the 1 seed to the 2 seed, then to the 5 seeds to give the division lead to the Brewers. And at one point, the Reds also took control of the division for a brief point before going back to the Brewers. And the Pirates, have been in this position of being really bad. Meanwhile, the Cubs were at one point the worst team in the entire National League back when they were 22-30. Back when their record was .413. Back when it seemed as if everything was going wrong for them. So for us to make the playoffs would be pretty damn incredible. And honestly, it's kind of funny to see if the Cubs can actually steal the lead at the worst possible time. Because it doesn't matter if you have the lead for 7 months, for like 5.5 months. You need to have that lead on the last day. You cannot surrender it. And I hope that the Brewers do. And the Cubs can kind of steal it. Because we are on a roll recently. We're not going to have a 100-win season. We are mathematically eliminated from that. We are not going to have a... we're not going to have like the number 1 seed. We're going to start playing a wild card on even if we win the NL Central. That's just the way it is. And we could be eliminated in the first round. Likely, if we're playing the Phillies, we'll be eliminated in the first round. And us playing the Phillies is very likely. Unless we can steal the title, in which case maybe we'll be lucky and get to play another team, which still could beat us. I hope to at least make it past the wild card round. I want to win our first playoff series since the 2017 divisionals. And, 2023 just seems like the right year to do that. So, again, I have high hopes for the Cubs. They already improved upon their record from last year when they went 74-88. So, let's just see what Chicago can do. Again, I don't feel secure until they've clinched the spot in the playoffs. I don't feel secure. That's probably not going to happen until the very end of it. The last game's October 1st. I'd say don't expect the clinching until September 28th at the earliest. But let's just see what kind of magic Chicago can pull off. Are we going to go 90-64? No. But we should finish at 500 at the very least. And seeing these teams, collapse, they've really paved a nice way for the Cubs to just, move on in. Like, since the All-Star break, what did we lose? Like, one series, maybe split like two? I think the only series we lost was against the Mets, which was highly embarrassing, especially because they just got swept by the Royals. And by the way, that was one of only 2 sweeps that the Royals got all season. But we came back, and that's all that really matters. God, it is so goddamn hot. I'm sweating outside. So that's just some perspective of how hot. You see how it's like 7:30 p.m. and yet it's still 86 degrees and it's so humid. It still feels like it's in the 90s despite it being sunset. That's kind of when you know that you're in a really awkward position. And it's not even supposed to be this way. I mean, it's September. Farmingdale's climatization is at a 4-day heat wave. Islip is at a 3-day heat wave. New York City, if we hit 90 tomorrow, just quite likely will also have our first heat wave of the summer. And I mean, all this just, like coming in at one of the worst possible times when school's coming back. 2023, in case you're wondering for the weather in New York, I've said it before, has been a very weird year. Our warmest January on record with no snow. As a matter of fact, it's the least snow winter at Central Park and one of the least snowy across the entire metro area. Despite being one of our warmest Februarys on record, though not the warmest, I think it stood in Central Park and about there in similar areas, we had a flash freeze on February 4th. Did New York City hit a record low? No, but many climate stations, even those that were like second, third warmest, set a record low during the month. They set a record low temperature. But then, Islip hit the 70s for the first time in February ever. At the same time. It was a very weird February, indeed. March was pretty tame, actually. April was weird because you have the second warmest April, despite the final week being all below average. You have a month that starts out the first week with less than half an inch of rain and finishes out is our 7th rainiest April with nearly 8 inches of rain. You have a low in the 70s in the first half of April. That's never happened before. But then the low doesn't get into the 70s in April again until the low doesn't get into the 70s in April again until late June. You have a very non-humid spring once you get into May. You had a very humid summer. Variable precipitation. It's been weird. And New York City's warmest weather coming in September just really caps off that. For now, at least, because I'm kind of scared what's going to come next. Oh, and August is the first August since 1986 to not have a single high in the 90s.